Could there be trouble brewing in the jungle in Cincinnati? Trey Hendrickson and the Bengals seem to have some problems right now in terms of their contract negotiations, which of course means good news if you are a Washington Commanders fan. Welcome into the show. I'm your host, Jack Sperry. Before we get into the content today, we break down the latest surrounding Trey Hendrickson trade rumors on today's edition of the Commanders Report. We will be going live on this channel if Trey Hendrickson ends up being traded to the Washington Commanders. Make sure you guys click that subscribe button if you haven't already, because we greatly appreciate all of your guys' support. And of course, we've got breaking news action every time this football team makes a big move this offseason. So some good news here if you are a Washington Commanders fan, because, last couple of weeks, since the Combine, it's most of the news surrounding Trey Hendrickson was the Bengals and Hendrickson want to get a deal done together, and it's looking like that they will get a contract extension done. But this is kind of the first bit of good news here, as Hendrickson said on the Pat McAfee show this week that he is disappointed with his negotiations with the Cincinnati Bengals. And it all started with Katie Blackburn, who is in charge of negotiating the contracts for the Cincinnati Bengals. She said this in Palm Beach this week at the NFL owners meetings. I think he should be happy at certain rates that maybe he doesn't think he'd be happy at. I think some of it is on him to be happy at some point. And if he's not, that's what holds it up sometimes. So, it takes him to say yes to something. And also we have all the respect in the world for him. He's been a great player. We're happy to have him. And so maybe we'll find a way to get something to work. We're just going to have to see where it goes. And then when she was asked about specifically whether or not she foresees a trade coming, she says, we'll have to see what happens, all right? So Trey Hendrickson saw those comments on April Fool's Day and said that he thought it was actually an April Fool's joke, called his agent and found out that those were not an April Fool's joke, and this is what he had to say on the Pat McAfee show yesterday. That was a little disappointing because communication has been poor over the last couple months. That's something I hold in high regard. They have not communicated with my agent directly. It's been something that's been a little bit frustrating. When I say that communication has been poor, I mean that it's been here and there. We don't have any desire to be the highest paid, and we've tried to be as patient as possible. So I think there's two pieces of good news here for the Washington Commanders. Number one, it sounds like negotiations between the Bengals and Trey Hendrickson are starting to kind of drift apart, and it seems like Hendrickson took personal offense to Katie Blackburn's comments at the NFL owners meetings this week. Then number two, it looks like Trey is actually not looking to be the highest paid edge rusher in football after Myles Garrett got paid $40 million per season on his contract with the Cleveland Browns. The next highest on the list is Danielle Hunter at 35.6. Max Crosby got a new deal this offseason at 35.5. So the fact that Trey is saying that I'm not looking to be the highest paid tells me that he'd be probably willing to come to a new team and take 35.7 or maybe 36 or maybe 37. And I think that is kind of the range that I'd be willing to go. I think I'd go as high as $38 million per season because I think he would make that much of an impact for the Washington Commanders while Jaden Daniels is on his rookie contract. And this team needs a number one edge rusher. But I would not only be willing to pay him that large contract over 3 or 4 seasons on a new contract extension, but I'd be willing to trade a first-round pick for him as well. I think he would be that important to the Washington Commanders and their potential title hopes for 2025. And I think that this is the kind of move that can take your offseason from good to great. And hey, if they can get him for less than that, if they can get Trey Hendrickson for like a second-round pick or a couple of day 2 picks, even better, all right? Like, I'd be willing to give up a first. That's probably the most I'd be willing to give up for him. I'm not going to be giving up 2 first-round picks for him or anything like that. I think a first-round pick is around what's fair and what Trey's value should be on the open market here. Plus, I'd give him that new contract. So if this is something that can be done, if I am GM Adam Peters, I am getting this trade done as soon as I possibly can. And if he can get something done for even less than a first-round pick, that's even better for the Washington Commanders. What say you guys? Let me know down there in the comments section. Would you accept this trade to send Trey Hendrickson to the nation's capital in exchange for a first-round pick this year, number 29 overall? Give me an A for accept or D for decline. Let me know what you guys think down there in the comments section for today's pinned comment. In just a second here, I'm going to tell you about our sponsor today at Fanatics. And while I'm telling you about our friends at Fanatics today, give me an A or a D down there in the comments section. And with that, let's have a word from our sponsor here at Fanatics, where they officially have their officially licensed NFL draft hats on their website right now. This is the official draft hat for the Washington Commanders. Commanders this year. All the draft picks will be wearing that really cool design. And I actually got this one for myself, guys, the off-white color with the gold leafing on there. I think that the designs this year on the draft hats are probably among the best that we've seen over the last several seasons, which is why I ended up purchasing this year's draft hat for myself. You guys can do it as well. Go to chatsports.com/2025draft. I like the black design too, man. I got to say, like, they really knocked these out of the park this year, guys. And then also when you use our link, chatsports.com/2025draft, and you make a purchase, we get part of the proceeds. So it helps out the channel, helps keep this content free for you guys. So if you want a Commanders draft hat, get that done for yourself right now by going to chatsports.com/2025draft. All right, now I want to talk a little bit about why I'd be willing to pay Trey Hendrickson and why I'd be willing to give up a first-round pick for him, because I think that adding him would complete this offseason for the Washington Commanders, because the goal of the offseason here was to build a team capable of making another run to potentially go to a Super Bowl and potentially win a Super Bowl in Jaden Daniels' second year as an NFL pro. And Trey Hendrickson would be a true number one edge rusher in this group that desperately needs one. Dorrance Armstrong, Dietrich Wise, Cleveland Ferrell, Jacob Martin, all these guys are fine. And I think that if you put Trey Hendrickson in this group, this is actually a really good edge rusher group. But without a true number one edge rusher, this is probably one of the worst edge rusher rooms in the National Football League as we stand here today. But if you inject Trey Hendrickson along with guys like Daron Payne, Jerzon Newton, Javon Kinlaw, Sheldon Day, of course, we talked about all the edge rushers that are currently in the group right now, all of a sudden this pass rush group looks a lot better with a true sack artist like Trey Hendrickson leading the way. And for me, guys, it's simple, all right? Right now, Washington's trying to compete for Super Bowls, and they want to maximize the 4-year window that they have left with Jaden Daniels on his rookie contract, where they have cost control on him, or he's on a really cheap contract, and they're trying to get as many big-time players on this roster as possible that are veterans and are ready to help a team win now. And, with Trey, I think that he's going to do more than any edge rusher you take in round one this year outside of some of the top guys in this year's draft class. Abdul Carter's going to go in the top probably 5, maybe even top 3 this year. And then, there's a couple guys that I would love to take at number 29 in James Pierce Jr. and Mike Green. I think those two guys are capable of being true number one guys and pretty quickly in their career. But, the chances that they fall to number 29 are pretty slim. And, you compare that to what Trey Hendrickson would bring to the table here. Last year, 19 tackles for loss. He led the NFL in sacks with 17.5 last year. He forced 2 fumbles. He had the highest PFF grade of his entire career at 88.1. So this is an absolute game-wrecking presence that we're talking about here, guys. And you can see the trajectory with his sacks. 17.5 sacks in each of the last 2 seasons. Again, last year he led the NFL in the metric. He also forces fumbles consistently, 2 to 3 per season. Also racks up the tackle for losses numbers. This guy is a big-time impact. And then the other thing, too, guys, is he's only gotten better as his career has gone on. All right, you take a look at his PFF grades, and obviously PFF grading is not gospel. We talk about that on the show all the time, but it's a nice tool to look at to see the trajectory of a player throughout the course of their career. And you can see ever since he started his career back in 2017 with the New Orleans Saints and going all the way now to 2024, his PFF grades have consistently gotten higher and higher and higher throughout his career, and now he's become one of the most marquee edge rushers in the National Football League today. And if the Commanders can land him, that is the type of move, guys, that can take this defense, which was okay last year. I think they overperformed based on the talent they had on the roster. They have great defensive play calling and scheme here with Dan Quinn and Joe Witt Jr. leading the way. If you add a true game-wrecking presence like Trey Hendrickson into this group, and then you can maybe add some more pieces in the NFL draft along with some of the pieces you've already added to this defense this offseason, I think that this is the type of move that can take this defense from pretty good, maybe average, maybe slightly below average, to something that could be approaching the top 10 level. And if that happens, along with the fact that Jaden Daniels is heading into the second year of his NFL journey, we're looking at a team here in the Washington Commanders that can legitimately challenge the Philadelphia Eagles and other top competitors in the NFC to be the NFC's representative in next year's Super Bowl in San Francisco. So let me know what you guys think down there in the comment section. Will Trey Hendrickson be a Commander in 2025? Predict it for me down there in the comment section. Give me a yes or a no to answer this final question on today's program. And that'll be it for today's show, guys. Thank you so much for making it to the end of today's edition of Commanders News and Rumors. Click that subscribe button for more Trey Hendrickson updates as the weeks go on here as we approach the 2025 NFL Draft. And until next time, guys, hail to the Commanders.